Hello, class, and welcome to Language Arts. Today is Wednesday, and we are going to be working on The Lion King. I love this Disney week. It's so great, or at least I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. I'm just quickly fast forwarding through everything else we've done this week. Make sure that you go back and do this if you're looking at any of these activities and you feel like you haven't done them. Okay. So we're starting again with Out of My Mind. Today we're reading just chapter 5. Make sure you focus on giving a one-word description, a 1 to 5 word description of each of the characters mentioned in this chapter. We're now going to go over yesterday's answers. So in what way is Melody just like every other 11-year-old girl? So your answers might be different than mine, but here are some of the ones I came up with. She has a sense of humor. She likes to watch television. She has similar interests to every other 11-year-old girl. She makes fun of her parents. Those are all kind of common things. How do Melody's parents treat her? Even though they are sometimes overwhelmed by her treatment, they love her and take really good care of her. What does Melody mean when she says, "Sometimes I wish I had a delete button in my head"? So this kind of means sometimes people say really mean things, or she wishes she didn't have to remember them with her photographic memory. Why does Melody have a tantrum at the store? Why is this so frustrating? Melody sees a toy that has a recall on it for being unsafe, for having lead paint. Melody tries to tell her mother that it isn't safe, but her mother thinks she's having a tantrum and wants to play with the blocks. And then chapter 4, what does Melody think about doctors? Do you think they would treat her differently if she knew what she was thinking? They treat her like she's stupid, and they would almost certainly treat her differently if they knew what she was thinking. I do want to kind of pause here and explain. So my father-in-law is actually completely bound to a wheelchair. He is not in the same situation as Melody because he can still talk and he can still like move a little bit. He can change the channels, things like that. But he definitely needs help doing almost everything. And when he came to visit us in DC, it was eye-opening because DC is one of the most accessible places in the world. You know, there are a lot of veterans who come to DC, so there are who have been wounded in battle and in service to our country. So they try to make sure that everything is very handicap accessible. So there's wheelchair ramps everywhere, there's wheelchair taxis, all kinds of stuff. And I could not believe how much harder our lives were when we had to negotiate them with a wheelchair. It was just really, really hard. So I have a lot of empathy for how Melody feels. And I know my husband became a doctor because of the condition that his father has. And I would hope that and I'm almost positive that he would never treat anyone the way that Dr. Hughley did in these chapters. I also want to point out that my father-in-law, despite the fact that he's in a wheelchair now, despite the fact that he has some trouble like feeding himself and doing those basic things, he's one of the smartest people I know. He is Dr. Benavides. He has his doctorate degree in theology, which is like a doctorate degree in Christian religion. And he was a minister at a church for a really, really long time. So it just kind of shows you, I share that story more than anything to say that when you do see someone with a disability, when you do see someone who is different, remember that. Remember how Melody feels. Remember how other people in books feel. That's one of the reasons I love books, is because they give us a window into how other people are experiencing things, what other people are feeling, other places that we might never get to go. And for Melody, you know, I will never know what it's like to have cerebral palsy, but I can empathize with Melody's experiences and maybe change my behavior after reading this book. So just wanted to share that because that's one of my goals as we read this book. So the cerebral palsy, could you catch cerebral palsy? Explain. You cannot catch cerebral palsy. It is not a contagious disorder, meaning it doesn't just spread. I'm sad right now because I'm missing Josiah telling us all about contagious disorders. But it happens to babies at birth because of something that happens as their brain is developing, either inside of their mother or during or after birth. Number 2, which of the following is not a risk factor or a potential cause of cerebral palsy? Genetics. So it's actually not caused by genetics. It's caused by a lack of oxygen during birth, an infection, or a premature baby. The condition that affects all of the following is all of the above. It sometimes can affect your intellectual disabilities, but not always. It affects your movement and communication. Communication is a fancy way of saying like your speech. There is a cure for cerebral palsy. No, unfortunately not, though doctors are working really hard on finding one. Cerebral palsy is common in the United States. No, it's super rare. And actually, Melody's parents talk about that. The odds of Penny being born or excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. Everyone with cerebral palsy needs a wheelchair. False. They like to say, like, when you met one person with a disease, you've met one person with that disease. So treat everyone as a fresh book or a blank page. There are 3 main types of this condition. That is true. All right, so let's move on. Today we're doing Be Prepared from The Lion King. This is right after the Lava Song in our Ultimate Language Notebook. Make sure you pause this video first. You're going to listen to the Be Prepared video that I've put onto our Wiser Me page, following along with your eraser or finger. What I want you to do with this one is pretty similar to the other ones that we've done. I want you to make sure that you're circling any words that you don't know, and in a different color or with a different pattern, I want you to circle and identify anything that you see as a good example of word choice. I'm going to read the first one as an example and give you some ideas. I also want you to draw what you think is happening. I know you can see it in the video, but I want you to draw a little summary picture at the bottom or in all of this blank space that you have here, summarizing what you think the song is about, what's happening, especially if you've seen The Lion King before. If you want to challenge yourself, try to separate yourself from The Lion King and just read this straight through without watching the video, and then double check by watching the video afterwards. So a couple different ways that we can do this. Main idea is I want you to watch the video and follow along with the lyrics, identifying good word choice, identifying words you don't know, and drawing a picture. So unpause this video and come back to it whenever you're ready. Okay, so at this point, I'm assuming you pause that video and now you're back here because you want to continue on with the activities. So you'll see this page, which has Scar in the middle, and it says, what character traits do you think best describe the main character of Scar? So we did talk about character traits kind of recently. I think we started talking about it a little bit in school. Definitely my flooding group, we've played a couple character trait games. So a character trait is something that describes someone's permanent personality. Remember we talked about how it's the climate, not the weather. So for example, I have brown hair. This isn't that's a bad example. That's not so I have brown hair is not a character trait. This is something that's part of my physical appearance, so it doesn't describe my character. I might be hungry right now, right? But it doesn't mean that I'm hungry all the time. Hungry is not a defining characteristic of my personality. I might feel tired right now, but I'm not tired all the time. So those are not examples of character traits. Some examples of character traits would be like energetic. I would say I'm a pretty high energy person, and so that's a character trait that describes me more permanently. So that's just kind of a quick review on what character traits are. Feel free to go back. I'm going to try to post a review video on character traits. So there. Story features. So this next page says, write about what you think each of the story features below might be for the overall story connected with this song. No, you do not need to have seen the movie in order to answer these questions. So who might the characters be? What is the conflict? Remember, the conflict is a fancy word for problem in the story. What's the author's purpose? Remember, there's 3 author's purposes: persuade, inform, and entertain. What's the tone or mood of the song? What's the setting? Remember, setting includes time and place. And what's the plot? Remember, the plot means what happens. So keep in mind, we're not talking about the whole Lion King. It's very important. We're not talking about the whole Lion King. We're talking about specifically this song. So what is the story being told by this one song? Sometimes it's a little harder to do these when we're more familiar with the story. It's almost easier when we've never heard the song before, we've never encountered that story. Okay, then finally, you're going to be answering the comprehension questions. Number 1 says, the phrase is, I know that your powers of retention are as wet as warthog's backside, and it's clear from your vacant expressions that the lights are not all on upstairs mean, A, that the main character is talking about a lack of intelligence. The people the main character is talking to lack intelligence. B, the people the main character is talking to are not paying attention. C, the people the main character is talking to are very intelligent. Or D, the people the main character is talking to are moving quickly. So circle the best answer. Remember, we're just focusing on this song. We're not focusing on the whole story. And I also want to encourage you to use those cross-up strategies that we've been focusing on. And if you don't have your Ultimate Language Book at home, that's why I project it on the screen. That's why I'm reading it out loud, so that you can do this on a separate sheet of loose leaf paper or scrap paper if you have it. Number 2, the word meticulous in the second to last stanza could best be replaced with the word, remember our plug and chug strategy, A, careless, B, ambitious, C, careful, or D, anxious. Number 3, this song most likely takes place A, at the beginning, B, during the main conflict, C, just before the main conflict, or D, at the resolution of the story. Number 4, what does the main character in this song promise the other characters throughout the song? A, that they will be happy, B, that they will become king, C, that they will be miserable, or D, that they will always have enough to eat. And number 5, which word is synonymous? Remember, synonym means same, antonym means different. Synonym same, antonym different. Okay. Now I'm realizing I need to slide this down. Which word is synonymous with the word sensational in the second stanza? A, insignificant, B, awesome, C, terrible, or D, insane. So here is the answer key. For the first parts, and here's the answer key for comprehension. So number 1 is A, number 2 is C, number 3 is C, number 4 is D, and number 5 is B. Make sure that you're not just copying the answers down, that you're actually pausing, doing the work, and coming back to check the answers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so proud of how hard all of you are working and the amazing things that you're accomplishing. Thank you so much, and I will see you tomorrow.